The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples left from there and began a journey through Galilee, but he did not wish anyone to know about it. He was teaching his disciples and telling them, "The Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. And 3 days after his death, the Son of Man will rise." But they did not understand the saying, and they were afraid to question him. They came to Capernaum, and once inside the house, he began to ask them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they remained silent. They had been discussing among themselves on the way who was the greatest. Then he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servant of all." Taking a child, he placed it in their midst, and putting his arms around it, he said to them, "Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
God's treasure is you. God's treasure is you. Do you know why God created you? Do you know your beauty? How priceless that you are? Do you know why you think and do what you do? I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters. My father was a mechanic. He had a gas station here on Middle Country Road in Hawkins Avenue. You know where that TD Bank is? That used to be a Shell station. That was my father's gas station for about 25 years. But we lived in Brentwood. One of my brothers, about 2 years ago, told me a story. When he was a little boy, about 10 years old, he's almost 70 now. When he was a little boy, about 10 years old, he decided one morning to get up and to go see his dad. He was going to ride his bike. He was all excited about seeing his dad. At that time, my dad had 8 children. So of course, you can understand that somebody's working very hard to take care of that family. So he wanted to go see him, and he brought his friend with him, Billy. They got on their bikes, and from Brentwood to here, it's probably about 11 miles. And they rode on their bikes all the way up to the gas station here. So my dad was in the gas station, and he was working on a car on a lift. And my brother came in with his friend, and he came into the garage, excited to see his dad. Well, my father, when he finally came from under the car, looked, and he said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Get out of here, go home." So my brother now left the garage, and in his distraught, in his rejection, in his confusion, he decided to take a ride home, but he went in a direction because of his confusion at that time. all the way down Middle Country Road to Comac Road, and then south on Comac Road until they couldn't go anymore because it was dark. Now going that way, it's about 20 miles to get to my house. So they finally stopped at a diner, and Billy, his friend, called up his dad, and his dad came to get them, to bring them home. My brother told me that from that day forward, he really didn't like my father. He hated my father. Now, it's pretty clear, I guess, right? My father was probably stressed and duressed, trying to do whatever he was doing, and he had a reaction to my brother being there, didn't know what to do, just told him to go home, went back to work, doing what he was doing. But that affected my brother's life, his whole life. And I said, he told me this 2 years ago. I'd never heard this story before. So here he is, almost 70. So he's over 50 years later, but this is still in his heart affecting him. And even at that time, he didn't like my dad. They didn't have a good relationship. My brother had a hard time throughout life. He had a lot of different problems. It wasn't only until like later in his life that because of the grace of God, he was able to start seeing things differently. But this story, you may ask, what does this have to do with children and service that we just heard about in the gospel, where Jesus tells us about who's the greatest and brings a child and puts them in their midst? Did you learn in your childhood how beautiful that God made you? A lot of us didn't. A lot of us may have had hard times and difficulties. Our parents trying to be good, or maybe just having struggles with being good. But that affects us as children, as we're being formed. It's really important for us to know how beautiful that we are, and how priceless that we are. And I wanted to try to make a suggestion to everyone. I have this book that I read when I started to become a dad, because I wanted to know my children so some things wouldn't happen. It's called The Temperament That God Gave You. Okay, I just want to read what it says in the front. The classic key to knowing yourself, getting along with others, and growing closer to the Lord. It's really important for you to know yourself, how you function, the things that you do, why you do what you do, why you may think the way you think. Because some of those are instilled in you. They're part of nature. It's not the nurturing part, like from family and society and those things that we are exposed to. It's the nature of who you are. And when you find that out, I think what it does is it helps you to see your beauty, to see your weaknesses. And I think it helps you also to be able to be a little more merciful towards those in your life. We can see the value of we can't see the value of another unless we know how priceless that we are to our Father. That's what gives us that stable foundation to know our worth to our Father. To know how much He loves us. My brother never knew this until my dad died last year. Last year in April is when my dad died. But all those few months before he died, he was at home. And we were taking care of him in my house. Well, my brother was a snowbird. So he really didn't want to come up to see his father. But I think from asking him, he finally wanted to put a hatchet and maybe have his relationship, or at least be able to say goodbye to his dad. So he came up and he lived with me. And he served my father at the end of his life. And he told me that it was in that service, because he saw the weakness of my father, that he was finally able to have mercy and forgive him. And isn't that what service is all about? It's for us to learn how to be this way with others, starting with those that are closest to us. Service. The beauty of service is our Father reveals himself through the one that you're serving, because that one is made in his image and likeness. And God desires to shower his mercy on his children through you. Healing you as well. The servants are the greatest because they fulfill the desire of their Father's heart. Tender, compassionate, and merciful love.